Hi everybody, this is Rick. I am working on some stuff right now. I want to give you a few updates. One is I'm working on a video about foxing. I'm hoping maybe I can put that up tomorrow. It's about foxing sort of in an academic sense on all books and maybe not just comic books. I've bought a microscope. I'm hoping to get a book with foxing on it to show you what that looks like up close soon. I happen to be out of books with foxing on it right now, and then we'll talk a little bit about what to do about it. So the next thing is I wanted to show you some books that I'm working on next, some recent books that I've worked on, and of course our friend Stephen Nathan has a question and Q&A for Tales of Suspense. So we'll review that. All right, see you on the next section. As you can see here, I'm cold pressing this Wonder Woman 200. I'm working on a Hulk 340 that's got one teeny spine tick. I got a Thor 617. Got a Spider-Man 30 that looks pretty good, but there's a little bit of ink on this cover. Oh, right there. Here and here I'm going to remove. I've got a Spider-Man 31 that has some mold down here. I'm going to kill and remove. There's a Spider-Man 34. I don't think I'm going to remove that stamp. I'm just going to whiten this up and clean it. I've got a Hulk 449, which looks okay, but there's a little bit of a coffee stain here. We have a Batman 227, which is pretty good, frankly. I think it just needs to be pressed. There doesn't need much. I have a Batman 423, which also looks pretty good. There's just one spine tick there. That'll be a quick job, 10 minutes. And then I have a Wonder Woman 199, sort of a famous bondage cover, and there's a check mark on the back that I'm going to remove. And that's it for the upcoming stuff. So what about stuff that I've been working on myself? So I've done a lot of books in the last week. I've probably done 30 books. A lot of people don't want me showing their books online, but a few people do. So I'll show you. This first one is Amazing Spider-Man 120. Is my book, so I don't really care. I got several copies of this book, but this one has bothered me for a long time. It had blood. There's blood on the bottom of it and on the back cover. I should have shown you the back cover. I probably have a picture of that somewhere. But this is the cover, what the cover looks like before and after, and it looks better. You can see it's not terrific. If I can manifest some photos of the back cover, I'll show them here. Give myself a little pause to do that in the editing. And hopefully I found them. So next we have Arabic and Indonesian Batman comics. A person sent me some books that they're building a Batman museum, different Batman comics around the world. They wanted these ink removed. So this first one is Arabic. There's a signature, or I think it says Batman in Arabic on the front. And it's been removed. And so, but it looks rough. I mean, some of the paper starts to look rough with the solvents, especially the foreign books. These foreign, meaning not US or Canada. England's okay, and South Africa is pretty good, but a lot of the other countries, particularly Mexico, the paper is very thin, and I cannot stand a lot of my solvent cleaning or washing. It's much thinner, and it just brittles easily, so I have to be especially cautious with it. The other one's an Indonesian one with Sharpie pen on it, and I cannot get it all out. You know, Sharpies has, especially the older ones that were, the indelible solvent-based ones, had the little ball in them. They would dissolve some of the substrate ink from the actual book cover into that Sharpie pen because it's got a solvent in it. So I have to stop when I get that because there's no separating the two. So, but it looks, I'd say it looks better. It's not great. And lastly, I have a jungle action here. I thought I had an original of this, but maybe I don't. Have mold all over the cover, and the paper's super brittle, being from the early 40s. But I was able to clean it up. It's not as dramatic without the before picture, but I thought you might like to see this fun cheesecake, pre-code book. So anyway, on to my next section. Okay, so we have a question from Stephen Nathan, one of the two Stevens. Steve from Sunnyvale and Stephen Nathan are the two guys that really do well in the show. He has a Tales of Suspense, which looks good. It looks really good, in fact. And so he wrote, "Hi, I just finished this book from my personal collection, which is awesome book. Dry cleaned, ironed, and pressed. I thought I would ask if you had any suggestions on the back cover. What would you do? Cleaning solution, peroxide, water, nothing at all. Thank you, and rock on, Steve. So he just did a dry clean, which is good. Now, these old books with the yellow, lots of yellow and red, it's always a challenge of whether or not you want to wet clean the book at all. He's done, obviously a fantastic job cleaning this. This is a beautiful book. Look at that. And this book is really great. I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. You can tell, though, that there's some yellowing even over here. But look at the back. So he's got the back where it has yellowed quite a bit. And this is a book that's tough to dry clean because if you use the melamine sponges especially on it, you'll regret it because there's not much of the paper there, and if you rub it, it will become very brittle. The wet cleaning solution, it might help a little. It's not, a bleaching solution, so it just removes schmutz, but this is obviously oxidized over time and turned yellow. Now, what would I do if I absolutely had to clean this book? And it looks like it's been cleaned a little before, possibly wet cleaned even. What would I do? If I really needed this to be cleaner, I would start with water. What I would do is being crazy, I might even take the cover off and I might immerse it in, a slant board with DI water and just rinse it. First thing you do is like the least harmful thing you can do. You can even leave the cover on, just the back, if you use a slant board and a squirt bottle. I'm developing a pump system to do this for people, but I'm starting to reconsider teaching people to do certain things because that paper rips very easily when it's wet, and so you have to really know what you're doing to execute that cleaning style. The water will lighten it up, and then if you repress, it will look better. It will not look all the way better, but it will look more uniform and less yellow. It kind of gets a lot of that stuff out of there. And that's what I do a lot of time. A lot of time you see my books look less yellow. I literally just wash. And that's not just water. I put some surfactants in it, but that's just to help it go faster. You can just use more water over more time to do the same thing I do in less time. That's a lot. That's strangely a lot of what my whitening is just rinsing with water for hours, and then it just cleans. And so that's one thing you can do. The second thing is, can you use peroxide? Yeah, you can. Peroxide is tricky. So I use 30% peroxide. Now 30% peroxide is nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. If you get it on you, it will really hurt, burn your fingers. I use it sometimes for, as we'll talk about next, that's what I tend to use when I see really bad foxing, to kill the mold and get it off of there. Now, you can only leave it on for a few seconds before you have to neutralize it, or it will burn a hole right through the paper. So you've got maybe 15 seconds to stop and neutralize that. And I use potassium iodate. If you don't get the ratio right, it'll turn your book purple. So, it's a challenge. Can you use 3% household peroxide? I think you probably can. It benefits from the use of UV light, but the UV light will sometimes make the paper very rough and break it up there. So it is a delicate operation. I would say use, some 3% household peroxide in just a little corner of it, and just do not use UV light and just see what that looks like. And if you like it, apply it to the rest of the book sort of sparingly, but you know what you're doing. Just use caution. As always, you have to really be careful. It is a sphincter tightening moment to put, like what I do is hot peroxide on an old book that's worth several hundred or maybe several $1,000s. So there's that. Good luck, my brother. And as you always say, rock on.